Good afternoon. So, as I said, I'm searching for slide replacements because the plastics are really bad quality and you can't see anything. And later today I will prepare some new slides from replacement that I'll think about something. Maybe I'll take another look at the trash. I'll do another scavenger hunt, like in the streets, like where I can move freely without problem. I wanted to now hold like a conversation, I would say, or a lecture, a video on the subject of so I promise you I'll speak about like something that you don't want to, probably most of you are at best reluctant to hear about, if not really hostile, which is the issue of homosexuals and pedophiles in the intelligence services of Israel, and as you know, not only of Israel. But it's actually something that I spoke about a lot in the past, and I am not really in the mood to repeat myself too much, even though it's an important subject. And even though I understand that many of my listeners actually did not hear like the previous lectures or the previous videos. Sorry that I call it lectures. It might sound condescending, but it's not really conversation, so it's more like a lecture than a conversation, even though of course I read all the comments, and sometimes as you know, I also like relate to them in these videos. So what I would like to do is to speak about this subject, but in a more generalized way. So this will be actually, I would say, a short. It will probably not be too long, like a bit about an issue that I've spoken about in Hebrew, but it wasn't uploaded nowhere, so it's not anywhere in any. It's not to be found like in any social like network or on YouTube. So this might be like a little bit like new for almost anyone, I guess. And it's it's the first time that I speak about it like in English, and also it relates to the issue of course, it's very heavily related to the issue of homosexuals and pedophiles in the intelligence services. So this will be the issue of, the issue of the hybrids. So what is exactly a hybrid, and what's like my stakes on this issue? As you remember, maybe, probably not all of you, but maybe some of you remember that it was actually very prominent subject in my art and in my many of my videos and recording during like the first months where I was occupied with paintings and also sculpturing, like from like a year and a half ago until like a year ago, and also after that as well. But mostly like in the beginning, it was actually a very prominent issue, the issue of the hybrids. And it's the question of what exactly, if you remember, one of the most like in symbolic language of like me and the starships, the Neos. So many times the hybrids were if it was like just a person, like a human being, it was represented by two portraits, one in acrylic and one in oil. And if it was like a whole like a state or country, like supposedly like a state of Israel, so it's or America or the United States, so it was mostly represented with two flags, one for acrylic and one of made of oil paint, like one besides the other. And it almost always like almost always it carried bad connotations, like it was a negative thing. And it was many times it seems like I'm kind of like in a personal war against me against the hybrids, like that I found that they are like a very like negative force in this world. And I made several lectures, several videos with regard to the issue of the hybrids in Genesis 6. It's like the war between what I see as remnants of the Titanomachi in Genesis 6. It's a quite interesting subject, but again, I don't want to repeat myself. It's in Twitter, and it was most of the lectures, most of the videos on these issues were all recorded in one night of like a long hike. It was culminated culminated in like in a series of talks that I had along the Yarkon River and also along the Yarkon streets, near the British Embassy and near the Russian Embassy and also near the American Embassy. I stopped in the Yarkon River and also on the Yarkon Street, in the prominent, the big, sorry, I forgot, like a Chinese embassy or something, but the important embassies. And I spoke about the issue from historical perspective and also mythological perspective. I spoke about hybrids in mythology, or like the Greek mythology, and starting Hesiodos as it's called, or Hesiod in the Latinized form, and like in Theogenia, and many issues with regards to like hybrids as represented by creatures that are half gods and half humans, and this is and mention that this is also it's an important if not consensual interpretation of Genesis 6, of the issue of one of the main transgressions of surrounding one of the Diluvian, we call it the Diluvian transgressions, and the transgressions that surrounds the story of the Mabul, like the deluge, and the Tower of Babel and things like that. Again, I don't want to repeat myself because it's already in Twitter, so you can find it. And I'm almost certain it was at the time that I spoke in English. I'm almost certain, so was it? Or no, unfortunately, no, I haven't, no, this was, it's still in Hebrew, so sorry about that. But the purpose of this talk is not to repeat all of this. I just remind you of those because they are related, but it's not the same issue. I don't want to speak about the same issue right now. But it's important background because it's part of my thought. You understand, and you understand. I think that all of you, those that followed me for a long time, and also those that followed me for a short period of time, you understand that. Whether you believe in my ability, to have divinations or prophecies or not, you can believe it or you cannot believe it. But in any case, all of you, you understand that part of my ability to understand a lot of things that surrounds me without any connection to any intelligence service is due to the fact that I'm not new in the game. It's not yes, if it was my first day, just an ordinary person just wakes up and start to understand things around him, it will be amazing that I understand so much things that are secrets that only people of intelligence agencies know, and it will be almost unbelievable that I know it without any connection, direct connection to an intelligence service. But that's not the case. I wasn't born I wasn't born today and did not wake up today. I started a very intense journey since the year 2019, and a huge part of the journey was to rethink and many things that happened to me throughout my life, and to reframe everything in to understand with more, just a huge puzzle with more and more pieces. And this was and I tried to make this process as transparent as possible, so people will understand what I'm going through. It wasn't a secret from my point of view. So I spoke about it, part of it goes in private stages, to Evernote and Gmail, but also some of a large part are in public stages like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and now YouTube. And so, for me, everything that I encounter is not something I don't think almost anything that I encounter, even if it's amazing things like nanobots in my body that can build stuff, it's not new. Like, I mean, it's not that, I mean, I always frame it like as more pieces, maybe in amazing pieces, but pieces in a huge puzzle, which that is my life. And you can, I mean, if you follow me for like enough time, like for because I speak like for years now, it's like since I mean, it's not that, by the way, I spoke like, and I was a person, I was a human being before 2019. I didn't born in 2019, and actually I wrote about a lot of stuff and spoke about a lot of stuff. It's and learned that, I mean, it's not that I have not born in 2019, but on 2019 it was like a change of paradigm. But I understand, okay, this is, I mean, you are not a regular Homo sapiens. Something is incredible. I mean, something is very different with your life, and you need to understand what. But you must do it yourself, because everyone around you will lie to you, like in the Truman Show. So I mean, whether you believe in the divination or not, it doesn't matter. But you understand that. For me, I mean, everything I mean, when I encounter, I mean, amazing things or unbelievable things, whether they are like positivistic things like robots or things like that, or I mean, understanding regarding, I mean, the nature of this world and the nature of intelligence services and the issue of the foreigners, it's never like, for me, it's always like I always try to fit it in a larger background, like I think of many things that happened to me throughout my life, and I've spoken about them. It's not like a secret. So, like on that note, I mean, the same is with the hybrids. The issue of the hybrids, it's kind of like it's got like a mythological background and an important like religious background, but I also try to fit it into my own world and to understand it. I mean, to conceptualize it as something that, I mean, relates to my existence right here, right now. Like, so what I want to speak now is on the issue of the hybrids, like with relation to my existence right now, not like in a historical sense or mythological sense or religious sense, even though it's very, these are all very important, but I've already spoke about this, and I think it's very interesting, but I don't want to repeat myself. Like, I already spoke about it, and even though there is still much to say, but I now want to aim like to I mean, to leave, I mean, for me it's the mythological issues and the religious issues and also the historical issues, and to speak about, I mean, where do we stand right now? Like, what is, I mean, what is going on right now on this world, like with the current manifestation of myself, or simply with me, Noam David, in this world that is I mean, this has got to do with what I call hybrids. And what is the problem with the hybrids? And not like the religious or the mythological problem, even though they are important. It's not that they are not important. And we will speak about religious in a minute. I'm not really like, I'm not abandoning the religious like outlook. I want to speak about how it's manifested in my world right now. So what's the issue of hybrids? Like, I mean, now, of course, I mean, simply says hybrids are offspring of two separate species. But this simple explanation is actually doesn't fit very well into my existence, like where I stand right now, because I don't know even if it's possible at all to have such offsprings, like between Titans and Homo sapiens. I don't know if it's even possible. Like, and I mean, I would say that it's probably something that is far beyond the technology, like, I mean, of humans currently, but probably for the best, because of the many reasons that I already spoke about, doing like the mythological and the historical and the religious subject, like videos. I mean, but for all those reasons, it's probably for the best that you can. I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, that you cannot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you cannot really create, like, I mean, a bona fide hybrid of a Titan and Homo sapiens. You can use the Titans like as incubators, but it's not the same. Like, you cannot really, I mean, merge the species. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would say that this is beyond your technological capabilities, and probably for the best, because if it wasn't, you would have probably tried, because that's the way you are, and like you are like Faust and ridiculous. I mean, completely like like, I mean, ready to have any deal with the devil anytime. And so So you can, but you cannot do it right now, and this is for the best. And this is because of the many reasons that we already spoke about. So you cannot really merge the species like the Titans and Homo sapiens, and let alone the cherubs, like my own species, which is a third species, but that's another issue. I mean, it is indeed possible to create offsprings of cherubs and Titans, and I think that for that reason, many people still don't see me, even though I spoke about it so much and I presented evidence. Maybe many of my listeners still do not think of me as a third species. They still would like to see me as a Titan. I mean, maybe of a different kind, or mutant Titan, or something like that. But I mean, this is wrong. But it's not the subject of this video, so I don't want to get into it. For certain, I can create offspring with what we call Titans, but these are not. I mean, but it's completely different. But all will be. I mean, we all will agree that this is completely different than the issue of Titans that presumably are able or unable, using that kind of technology or another, to create offspring with Homo sapiens and to merge a species. It's a different issue. Now, so the question, if this is even impossible, so what's the problem? I mean, presumably the existence of hybrids is impossible, so why should I be afraid of them, or speak about them, or presumably it's it's like a non-issue. So I mean, what's the problem? So but we must now, what we need to do is to enlarge our horizon, to be more broad in our definitions. So and to speak, to think about hybrids in a more general way. A very important and related subject, or I'll say an issue, is the issue of I have no idea how it's called in English. In Hebrew, it's called the Shatnez. It's funny because when I worked in the company Hermetic, I only worked there for 6 months, so it was so short. But they really, all the people there really liked the word Shatnez. During those 6 months, I've heard the word Shatnez much more times than I've heard it all my life before and after that. And they really liked the word Shatnez. It's a negative word, and I would like to even though it comes from the Jewish religion. It's so strongly associated with Jewish religion, even though none of them were even remotely religious in Hermetic. They just borrowed it from the religious context. So what is Shatnez in Hebrew in the religious context? So first of all, I would say that when you are a child, in Orthodox education, it's kind of like one of the mitzvahs that is always given as an example of presumably what we say mitzvot shimiyot, or supposedly there are two kinds of mitzvahs. The ones that have logical explanation, thou shalt not murder. So everyone presumably understand why you should not murder. So but there are other mitzvahs that supposedly have no explanation, and you should only do it because that God said so. And by the way, I would say, even though it's not a subject of this video, that this is, it's quite ridiculous, because all the mitzvahs, all of the things that God wants from you, it's got a logical. This is one of the things, the important things that Jesus Christ already, spoke about at length, and I really think that 2,000 years after that, it's kind of ridiculous to reiterate what is already, you can already read it. It's already, this is already stated quite eloquently in the Evangelions. So Jesus doesn't need me to repeat what was true 2,000 years ago and still true today. That everything that God wants for you, it makes sense. God doesn't want anything from human if it doesn't make sense. Maybe some humans are really stupid, not to understand even the basic stuff, and what can you do? Intelligence varies and education level varies, but starting at very a minimum that is not that high of intelligence and education, everything that God wants from human beings is logical. I mean, maybe they need to, to use their brain a little bit to understand the logic, maybe, but mostly it's like pretty obvious. But again, I don't want to get into it too much because it's not the subject of now. And also, I mean, as I said, JC already, spoke about it really well 2,000 years ago. So, and it's not, it didn't change much. I mean, it's still the same issue. So, but I mean, presumably, as you are told, like in the when you are a small child, like a very young child, maybe also already in kindergarten, and for certain when you enter primary school, that there are like mitzvot shimiyot, that there is a category of like mitzvahs, of like orders from God that you don't understand. That you don't understand the logic behind them, but you just need to do it because that's what God said. Not only you, just as a child, like anyone, not the adults as well. It's not something that you will It's not something that you will understand when you grow up, as they say in Hebrew. No, they tell you when you will grow up, you still will not. You're going to understand it. That's the way it is. So, and one of the examples supposedly of such mitzvahs is the issue of Shatnez. And this is closely related to the issue of hybrid. So I want to dedicate a few words to this mitzvah, Shatnez. What is Shatnez actually? So really, yes, the truth of the kindergarten genenet, like the kindergarten teacher, the kindergarten, the daycare service center or something like that is saying in the religious education. Well, there is like the crux of it, the true part is that it's complicated. It's one of the things that you should really use your brain in order to understand. It's not something entirely trivial, but of course it's got explanation. So first of all, there are several types of Shatnez. That's what makes it complicated. I would say that the most what I say now, by the way, is not all of it is like in the consensus, because as I said, people view it as example of things that has no explanation. So any explanation that I will present will not be in the consensus, but I say what I think. Okay, so and I wait I want to dedicate a few words for this issue because it is related to the issue of the hybrids right here and right now. It's not. So we need. So it's important to think about like the religious background. So what is exactly Shatnez? Like, what is it? So there are several. There are actually several categories of Shatnez, and I want to speak about two of them. So probably the most simple one is that you cannot plow the field with an ox and a donkey. But both of these animals are used to plow fields, but in the ancient past, and actually I've seen today in very undeveloped places. But so the Torah it tells you not to do it with both of them together. And this is actually very simple. You don't need to think a lot. It's not that it doesn't. This is a simple kind of Shatnez because it's obviously a subcategory of how they say in Hebrew tzar balei chaim. The Torah is there are several phrases in the Torah which it stated that you should not mistreat animals, and tzar balei chaim is translated as the sorrow of the animals. So something that you need to avoid. It's also in the Talmud actually. It's the famous examples of maybe it was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. I don't remember that mistreated animals like Nils Holgersson that he mistreated animals and then he was punished severely, but he had this chance to repent and then the punishment went away after he demonstrated that he no longer mistreats animals. So it's already in the Torah. So so you should not mistreat animals. So obviously this is a kind of a mistreatment of animals because different types of animals will require. They plow at different speeds and different strengths, and they require different breaks. Their energy and metabolism is not the same. Differently, different foods. So I mean, and rest and water. So obviously it will be very annoying, if not like outright cruelty, for like for two different animals like a donkey and the ox to plow together, like with the same harness to the same machine, like that to plow the fields. So okay, this is the simple type. But there is also one that is actually, it's considered by to this day something that is almost like unreasonable, which is in the clothes. Like you cannot, I mean, wear tzemer is wool, I think, like it's come from the sheep. Like I mean the like the clothing of the sheep. It's wool, tzemer. I think it's wool, and pishtan. It's linseed. Actually, it's kind of like it's kind of clothing that it's a fabric that is made out of like from like something that goes like linseed is kind of like crop. And so you cannot wear clothing that are made of the two of these like together. And Orthodox Jews to this day, I mean, they I mean, it's for them it's very, I mean, it's just like, I mean, thou shall not eat pig, for example. I mean, for them it's something that it's outright like something that they should not do, and they take a lot of care not to do it, and not to wear anything like any suit or clothes or pajamas or anything that is made of that boasts like wool, and also pishtan, which is, I mean, many times this is actually the idea of pishtan, of the linseed, is many times is extrapolated, or I mean, to any type of thing that actually goes, like including cotton, for example. So they will not wear things that are made of cotton and wool, like, I mean, together. So there are many answers actually to what, I mean, even though it's kind of like, I mean, it's considered like something that is not, presumably, not something that is logical. People try to find explanation. One of the explanations that I read, I think that is actually the true one, and it's actually, I didn't invent it, but I really think that it's a true explanation, and it's, I mean, it's even, I mean, when you understand the explanation, it even seems obvious, I would say. And that is the explanation that is also, I mean, something like on the lines of Tsar Balei Chaim, like the soul of animals. So the idea is that, I mean, first of all, we need to understand something that many people today don't understand. But until the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, a huge part of the work of the production of human beings, mostly women actually, because this is one of the things that was traditionally done by women, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, huge part of like the GDP of humanity was dedicated to clothing, like to actually like fix clothing. So just a second, I'll create another video because I don't want them to be the videos to be too long.